The Biden administration that caused this open border problem. The state of Texas is having to step up and spend Texas taxpayer money doing the federal government's job. Texans have the backbone and the will to secure a border, two things that Joe Biden does not have.
Governor Greg Abbott met with Texas state officials and law enforcement agencies in a roundtable discussion focused on border security at the Weslaco DPS headquarters, in which he issued a warning to migrants headed to his state.
We're sending a message today, and that is, if you're coming toward the United States of America and you are thinking about crossing our border, and you're thinking about making your border crossing in the state of Texas, you're picking the wrong state to enter into.
With Title 42 set to expire in May, Abbott ripped President Joe Biden a new one as the governor of Texas listed border security as an emergency item in this legislative session, as up to 18,000 people are expected to cross the border a day.
It's because of that I declared border security to be an emergency item this session. 3 years ago, we had the lowest number of border crossings in decades. And there was a reason why we had such a low number of border crossings 3 years ago. It's because we had a president who had implemented 4 very simple policies that led to that dramatic decrease in illegal border crossings. One is to end catch and release. Another is to implement Title 42. Another is to implement the Remain in Mexico policy. And the other is to build a border wall. And maybe you could add to that an attitude that if you want to come to the United States of America, come here legally, not illegally. And as soon as President Biden took office, he eliminated all of those policies that President Trump put in place, and also issued basically an open invitation to anybody in the world that they can come here to the United States and cross our border illegally with no consequences. To help local officials whose communities are being overwhelmed by hordes of illegal immigrants who are being dropped off by the Biden administration, Texas is providing charter buses to send these illegal immigrants who have been dropped off by the Biden administration to Washington, D.C. We are sending them to the United States Capitol, where the Biden administration will be able to more immediately address the needs of the people that they are allowing to come across our border.
The governor should send several bus loads he mentions to Beverly Hills and let them out on Rodeo Drive to see how long it takes those movie stars to change their tune. Thank you, Governor Abbott, for doing something that our federal government refuses to do, which is being strong and doing the right thing for Texans and Americans.
So the Biden administration's open border policies have led to a record number of illegal immigrants crossing the border into the United States. Barack Obama's own Secretary of Homeland Security said that by any measure, having 100,000 people cross the border in 1 month would be a crisis. Now, the Department of Homeland Security is saying that with the end of the Title 42 expulsions beginning in May, the federal government is planning for up to 18,000 illegal immigrants crossing per day. That's more than 500,000 illegal immigrants crossing the border every single month from more than 150 different countries across the globe. That's far beyond what Homeland Security Secretary Johnson said was a crisis. It is unprecedented and it's dangerous. We have potentially more people who will be crossing our border illegally by the end of this year than live in Los Angeles, America's second largest city. With the Biden administration ending Title 42 expulsions in May, Texas will be taking its own unprecedented actions this month to do what no state in America has ever done in the history of this country to better secure our state as well as our nation. I deployed 10,000 National Guard and DPS troopers to the southern border. They have apprehended more than 200,000 migrants so far. They've arrested more than 11,000, including cartel members, drug smugglers, and cop killers. And of course, they have seized more fentanyl that is enough to kill every man, woman, and child in Texas. And Texas, unlike any state in the history of our country, we have already begun to build our own border wall, securing our state and securing our country. But with the ending of Title 42 expulsions, more must be done. Today, I'm announcing a series of new strategies that will be added on to Operation Lone Star to curtail the flow of drug cartel smuggling and migrants and drugs. The first involves inspections. A zero-tolerance policy for unsafe vehicles for smuggling migrants across the border is being implemented immediately. Cartels use vehicles, many of them dangerous commercial trucks, to smuggle immigrants, deadly fentanyl, and other illegal cargo into Texas and onto our roadways. Effective immediately, the Texas Department of Public Safety will conduct enhanced safety inspections of vehicles as they cross the international points of entry into Texas. Now, I know in advance this is going to dramatically slow traffic from Mexico into Texas. It is a byproduct of cartels crossing the border from Mexico into Texas. Securing the border does not come cheap. Securing the border would cost Texas nothing if the federal government was doing its job, but because Joe Biden is not securing the border, the state of Texas is having to step up and spend Texas taxpayer money doing the federal government's job. Texans have the backbone and the will to secure a border, two things that Joe Biden does not have.
Regarding the charter buses, how many are we talking? When is it set to begin? And again, can you clarify, you're talking about migrants who are like mass released from the federal government into Texas towns that don't have the infrastructure for it. You're going to put them on charter buses and take them to D.C.?
So the Biden administration, as we speak, with the current numbers, even before the elimination of Title 42, they've been dumping large numbers of migrants in cities up and down the border, leaving the cities to grapple with challenges they don't have the capability of dealing with. They themselves have been putting these migrants on buses to San Antonio. So I said, I got a better idea. As opposed to busing these people to San Antonio, let's continue the ride all the way to Washington, D.C.
That you all are planning to send these migrants to, is there a designated area you guys have in this plan?
The first location will be the steps of the United States Capitol.
Subscribe to our channel because we the people are endowed by our Creator with these unalienable rights: life, liberty, and guns.